Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to Denmark once again, and we're going to revisit a brewery who are very well thought of in Danish craft beer circles. So we're going to go to the island of Fyn in Denmark and revisit Indslev Bryggeri. They of course have a second company which is called Ugly Duck Brewing Company. This brews a lot of the nice kind of American style beers, and today we're going to have a taste of the double retro IPA from this range. This is more like an old school American double IPA, Cascade, Columbus and Chinook in this one. It comes in at 9%, so it should be pretty damn awesome. And I have to give a big thank you to Mike and to Anders at Indslev Bryggeri for sending me the beers. These guys sent me about, it was 4 of the Indslev beers and 10 of the Ugly Duck ones, so I have to give them a big shout out to that, and a big thank you for sending me all the beers and for supporting the channel. They really enjoyed the last video I did for them and they shared it through their Facebook, so a big thank you to you guys at the brewery for doing that, and hopefully you enjoy the next reviews that I'm going to do for you as well. So anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual website links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Ugly Duck Brewing, and I will put one down there for the Indslev reviews as well. And there's all the usual social media things down there, Facebook, Twitter and Untappd. Please support me through there. Your support would be much appreciated. If you want to see more Danish beer reviews, subscribe to the channel and there will be many more to come. And I will apologise to my Danish viewers in advance for any bad pronunciations that I do, but please do let me know some other Danish beers and breweries that you'd like me to have a look at, and I will try my best to get a hold of these. So anyway, Ugly Duck Brewing Company is one of the brands produced by Indslev Brewing Company, who are based in Norre, Aaby near Middelfart on the island of Fyn in Denmark. If you think of the island that Copenhagen's on, there's another fairly big island where Odense is, and that's on the way to the Danish mainland. Norre Aaby is on that island, I believe, in the northwest, if I remember correctly. But the Indslev Brewery has roots tracing back to 1897, but they reopened as a modern brewery in 2006, and since 2012 they've also been brewing the Ugly Duck beers as well. So the brewery is owned by Anders Rasmussen, whose great-grandfather Frederick built the brewery back in 1897, and both of them grew up on the farm right next to the brewery. But Indslev were actually the first modern brewery in Denmark to specialise in the brewing of wheat beer, and they remain the only brewery to have done so in Denmark today, and you will see me review a few of these beers in the near future. But the desire to brew different beers in addition to these wheat beers was what led them to found the Ugly Duck Brewing Company. And the two brewers at this brewery are Stefan Peter Sadler, who is from Munich, and he graduated as a brewer from the Hofbräu school in Munich, and he's worked in many Danish and German breweries. And there's also Torben Steenholt, who brewed previously for Velia and for Brokhus in Denmark. And the brewery has been modernising and has a brew kit from Kasper Schultz in Bamberg in Germany. A very, very good brew kit, as I'm sure you can imagine. Bamberg, of course, is one of the kind of German meccas of beer. It's a very, very beautiful town as well. If you get the chance, go and visit it. But as I say, Indslev Bryggeri are a kind of pioneering Danish brewery, the first wheat beer brewery in Denmark, and then they've got their Ugly Duck beers on top, which are very, very highly rated. So this one should be a really awesome beer. So just to list the beers you can get from these guys, in the Indslev range you've got the Svartfede, which is the black wheat, Svanfede, Speltbock, Påskefede, which is the Easter beer, Julefede, which is Christmas beer, Fede IPA, which is one that they've sent me, Fede, which is the white, Fede Bock, which is a Weizenbock, Fredrikspauste, which is the Easter beer, and they also have the Morkfede, which is the dark wheat, Fredrik Jul, which is their Christmas beer, and Frokost, which is a lunch beer. And in the Ugly Duck range, there's the Imperia Vanilla Coffee Porter, which I reviewed for you before, Hoppy Christmas, Rye Porter, Helmuth Keller Beer, Miami Vice, Simcoe, and Chinook IPA. That's supposed to be an awesome one. Putin, which is a nice dark stout beer, the Nelson Paleo, Ugly Christmas, Hop Devil, Foxy Brown, Papso in the Tropics, and also the Amarillo and Citra IPA. So they've got a really good range of beers there. As I say, check out the two brewery websites in the description below and you can read a little bit more about exactly what goes on at Ugly Duck Brewing Company and Indslev Bryggeri. Very, very cool guys, and I'm sure if you get in touch and have any questions, they will answer them for you. Again, Anders and Mike were very, very cool in sending me this beer. So just to read the commercial description on the back of this one before we get stuck into it, this one says, Double Retro IPA, we call it Double Retro, no hipster beer this time around. We chose Cascade, Columbus and Chinook, and it works. Just the greatest old school hops. These hops made things happen back in the day and will still rock your socks off. Like remembering the time before hybrids and electric cars, this is raw muscle. A big block 454 V8 using loads of high octane gasoline translated into beer. Enjoy the crispy bitterness and discreet sweetness it brings to the beer. We've brewed it with love and dedication, craftsmanship forever. Brewed by Indslev Bryggeri in Denmark. So this should be very, very awesome beer. I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. There you can see the nice, how do you say, I don't know if it's a Mustang that's on the front there. There's a Porsche on the front as well there, but it looks very, very nice. A Porsche 911 and a Mustang, I think, but I'm not a big car enthusiast, so do forgive me if I'm saying the wrong things. But without further ado, let's get this beer open and we'll get on with the tasting here. Very much looking forward to this one. Just a plain bottle cap on this, incidentally. So yeah. So as you can see, a nice smoky opening on this one, and we'll get it out and into the glass. And just without even paying too much attention, as you open up that bottle, you get a hell of a lot of sweet, juicy fruit coming out of there. You can smell that right away as you start to pour this beer. Very, very nice smelling beer. So yeah, this is poured a kind of very bright orange amber actually. I'm not sure how well you can see that, but I'll just bring the light over and let you see the exact colour of this one. If I put it in front of the light, it's a really rich, kind of orangey, kind of blood orange, tangerine coloured beer this. It's quite opaque. If I put my fingers behind it, you can't see much through it. If I put my fingers between it and the light, you can see something through it. But there's quite a few big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass here. There's a solid finger of a frothy white head on this one, and quite a lot of carbonation actually rushing up towards the bottom of that head there. No visible sediment. It looks very, very nice, and it looks a very, very inviting beer. It looks like a typical double IPA. So we'll give it a smell and see how we get on with this one. Oh yeah. So as you would expect with these hops, you've got a big floral aromatic presence in this beer, and that's from both. That's from both the Cascade and the Columbus. The Chinook beer gives you a bit. The Chinook hop kind of gives you a sort of grapefruity and piney resin character in this one, and you can smell some of the underlying piney resins, but there's a really sort of sweet, grassy aroma coming out of this one. But there's a big floral aromatic character, like I say. That's from the Cascade and the Columbus. There's grapefruit in there, that's Cascade and Chinook coming out. And there's a bit of citrusy character as well. That's more of the Columbus coming out. And it's a really nice, juicy, fruity IPA, this one. There's a good bit of pine resin as well. That just kind of underpins the aroma. And that is a characteristic of the Chinook hop. But underneath that, when you sugar it up a bit more, you can pick up some of the nice pale bready malts, and there's a lot of caramel sweetness coming out, but it's more of a sort of biscuity, syrupy caramel sweetness that's coming out of this one. And as I was saying, there's a really kind of sweet, almost grassy aroma coming out of this one. It's quite interesting. I've never quite smelt a double IPA that has this unusual, juicy, grassy character coming out of it, so just pay attention to that when you get stuck into this beer. Seems to me, one thing I've also noticed is that the Chinook hop in Scandinavia, particularly in Denmark and in Sweden, that's a very popular one for brewers to use here. And it's quite an interesting little quirk, because a lot of American brewers, as far as I can remember, some of them use it, some of them don't, but it's very popular here in Denmark and in Sweden. But yeah, let's get stuck into this beer. It smells really nice. As I always say, give your beers a good smell before you get stuck into this one. But this one is going to be an old school double IPA, so let's get stuck into this beer. So this is the double retro IPA from Ugly Duck Brewing Company, part of Indslev Bryggeri near Norre Aaby on Fyn in Denmark. A big thank you to Anders and to Mike at the brewery for sending me these beers. Skål! Ooh. Now that's a really well balanced double IPA. A lot of the American ones come across as being really forward on the hops, but this one has a good bit more malt in it, and I have to admit I do like that. I love it when you get a nice sweet caramel malt backing up the hops, and this one, for me, is actually a bit more forward on the malts than it is on the hops actually. It blends together very well, and that's just on the first taste. Yeah. That's really interesting. That I've never quite come across one that has such a big. It's got a big juicy and a big caramel sweet character in this one. That works really well actually. If you like your big caramel flavoured beers and nice juicy hops, then give this guy a try. Very, very nice. As I always say, just sugar the beer around your palate a little bit before you try and dissect the flavour too much, because there's usually a lot going on in these beers, so you just want your palate to be nice and fresh and to adjust to this beer properly. Yeah. So as this beer comes in, you get a really nice fruity, juicy character. I think it comes across as being a bit more orange, which is kind of surprising considering the hops that you get in there, because really when you've got the Cascade and the Chinook in there, you should get more of a grapefruit flavour, but that kind of comes out a bit more into the aftertaste. The grapefruity character comes out a bit more as you get into the aftertaste, and I can feel the sort of floral aromatic elements coming out of this beer. The pine raisins start to come out a bit too, and that's from the Chinook hop. The pine raisins are coming out. Very, very nice. But the caramel malt really starts to push its way out in the aftertaste as well. It's very interesting. You can taste the alcohol is quite obvious in this one, but it works really well with the sweet caramel flavours. You can feel quite a bit of warmth from this. This is a good sort of winter double IPA. It will give you a bit of warmth before you go out in the snow or whatever. Yeah, of course, all those flavours are coming out on the back end of the beer. On the front end of the beer, as I said, it's a really nice citrusy flavour that's coming out, and that's probably more of the Columbus hop starting to dominate. But in the middle of the palate, you've got a nice light kind of bready pale malt character. That just blankets the middle of the tongue. There is a bit of a cereal character to that as well, and you can get a little bit of dryness in the middle of the palate, and then you've got the really sweet boozy caramel on top of that, and there is a bit of alcohol warmth hidden in there, like I say, and you can feel that there, but in the aftertaste, it's more the bready. There's a little bit of the bready character, and then the caramel starts to become just that little bit sweeter as you get into the aftertaste. But yeah, the caramel flavours in this actually blend together very well, particularly with the citrusy flavours of the beer. As I say, that's from the Columbus hop. If you go behind the very front curve of your tongue, you'll feel this little oily bubble starting to come out, and there's some nice grapefruity characters in there. As I said, that's the Cascade and the Chinook hop coming out. As you push into the aftertaste, more of the pine raisin actually starts to come out from the Chinook hop. But and the first taste of this beer, I think it comes across as a bit more citrusy, and obviously that's the Columbus hop. But if you go out to the edges of your palate, which is where the hoppy flavours usually come out, there's a sort of earthy character in the very back corners of the palate, but it does start to become a bit more floral and aromatic. It actually gets a bit drier as you progress into the aftertaste, and as you come further forward on the palate, it smooths out, then you get to the very corners of the front and it starts to curve around, and that's where more of this floral aromatic character is starting to come out there. It's really nice and it blends together quite well. The floral aromatic character in this one is a bit spicy, and it tends to, I think it really builds as you move into the aftertaste, and it gives you a really nice dry aftertaste. This beer, it's a very interesting blend of flavours. It's got a very different mouthfeel from the other double IPAs I've come across before. But it starts to, as the dryness of that floral aromaticity builds, it kind of mixes well with the pine raisin flavours and the nice grapefruity sour character that comes out of this beer. Not like a sour beer, I just always describe the grapefruit flavour as being a bit more of a kind of sour, juicy flavour. But as I said, this beer comes in citrusy and kind of caramelly sweet on the first taste, and then as you move into the aftertaste, it really starts to become more floral, more aromatic, a bit of pine raisins and a bit more grapefruity. It's really interesting, and it's quite cool to see somebody go back and use the sort of the kind of old school American hops, and they've done it pretty damn well, I have to admit. This is a really nice and quite interesting double IPA. I always like treating these videos as more of a tasting video where I describe the flavours for you rather than rating beer, but this is a really good beer, and I have to say, if you get the chance and you like the sort of kind of old school American IPAs, if you like the sort of West Coast IPAs, then this is one I think you really could enjoy. It's a bit more boozy, I think, than some of those ones, but you know, it's very, very nice, and I would recommend you try it. Pretty much any beer you're going to try from Ugly Duck Brewing Company, I'm pretty sure you will enjoy it. They've got some really highly rated double IPAs. The one that I reviewed for you before was a Vanilla Coffee Imperial Porter. That was a really damn good beer, I have to admit, and a lot of their beers, like I say, are very, very highly rated. But yeah, I would recommend this to people who like an old school kind of West Coast IPA. It's got some of the really old school hops, Cascade, Columbus and Chinook. They all come out really quite well in this, and it's interesting that you get citrus on one end and then grapefruit and tropical fruit on the other end. It works really quite well with this, so it's an interesting and quite quirky beer. So if you get the chance, this is a new beer from Ugly Duck Brewing Company, go and check it out. I've quite enjoyed it, and I wouldn't hesitate to drink it again given the chance. But I've got a lot more different beers to review from Ugly Duck Brewing Company, so we'll get stuck into those over the next few videos. But I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. As always, please let me know in the comment section below if you do happen to have tried this beer before. Always interesting to hear from you guys that are trying the beers as well. Like I said, Danish viewers, please let me know some other Danish beers and craft brews that you'd like, and actually let me know what your favourite beers from Ugly Duck Brewing Company are. I've got quite a few of them downstairs. Some of them are very, very interesting, so you will see those pop up over the next little while. But as always, I thank you for watching my beer reviews. Please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Go and support the social media things too if you get the chance. And I thank you for watching the beer reviews. Until the next time, Slange just now, and go and check out Ugly Duck Brewing Company and Indslev Bryggeri from Norre, Aaby, Fyn, Denmark. Skål!